and welcome to a new episode of Worlds Collide with me, your host, Viktoria. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome. So today, I just wanted to say first that last month was the strongest month I had so far with the listenership of this podcast. So thank you very much. Thank you always for tuning in. I really appreciate that. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in, and it made me really happy to have a growing listenership. All right. This week, my guest is Nancy, and Nancy worked in corporate, and she was sent to Switzerland and Denmark. So we talk about her experience about corporate world abroad, and also then her process of moving back, and how it is if you have like aging parents abroad, and like what her whole experience about that was. All right, so here is my conversation with Nancy. All right, my guest today is Nancy. Hey, Nancy, how are you?
Hi, Victoria. I'm well. Thanks for letting me join you today on your podcast.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Bozeman, Montana today.
Oh, you're in Bozeman.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right by the national parks.
Exactly. Yep. Near the national parks. And if you've been watching that TV series that's really kind of hot right now called Yellowstone.
Yeah. I haven't watched it.
Well, there you go. Now's a plug to watch it if you want to see some of them.
Yeah, for sure. All right. But we are talking about your experiences being abroad in Denmark and Switzerland.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so where were you first, in Denmark or in Switzerland?
So I started in Switzerland first, and I moved there because I had such a great work opportunity. So I've been in like the biotech and pharmaceutical space for most of my career, and many within commercial, right? Because that's the side that I'm on. So I'm not the side that does the clinical studies, etc. I'm not a scientist. I'm more the commercial business partner. On that front. And so there's, at least when I was coming up in my career, a lot of opportunity to live and work abroad. And I knew that I always wanted to do that. I had focused my MBA on international studies, spent a little bit of time at Oxford, a little bit of time in China. And the more that I did that, the more I realized, I really do want to live and work abroad. And so
I need that experience for my career. I studied it, so I need to live it.
Yeah. And also I think personally, right? Like, I'm sure you would attest, it's so enjoyable to be learning at work and doing your best at work, but then also be so culturally enriched in your personal life as well. So that's a hard drug to give up, if you will. Yeah. I really, really enjoyed it.
So, and then were you working in a company in the US which sent you to Switzerland, or did you apply to a job in Switzerland?
Yeah, no. So I was working for a company in the US that had a subsidiary in Zug, Switzerland. And so I was able to transfer within my company. And that made my first time going abroad really much easier.
Yes.
Because it's nice to have someone who's helping you with the paperwork. You know all about the visa paperwork, everything you need to do to prove that you're worthy to have a work permit.
Yes.
And come over. And so I was lucky enough to have an HR team that was helping me do that. Sure. So that was really good. And then, living and working in Switzerland was fabulous. Like, I don't regret a minute of it. It was a lot of fun. I was able to work with, people from France and from Germany and Italy, et cetera, et cetera. And in America, sometimes it feels like, you're working with almost the same kind of person in a way, right?
Yeah.
Similar mentality, at least. I'll say it that way. And so it was really enjoyable for me to be part of a cross-cultural team and then eventually lead a cross-cultural team. So many things come up, right?
Yeah.
Just like for example, in business, and if you've worked with a lot of North Americans, they'll use these phrases like, let's knock that out of the park. And people are going,
that doesn't make any sense.
What are you talking about? And so it was really a good learning for me to become very aware of what I was saying and what I was trying to convey.
Mm-hmm.
Americans also use a lot of idioms. We use a lot of metaphors, ways of speaking instead of
Yeah.
literally just saying what it is you're trying to say.
Yes.
We try to use an analogy. And I don't think that works very well, especially with people whose, second, third, fourth language is English.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sort of falls flat. So I learned how to speak slower. Like I'm back in the US now,
Mm-hmm.
so I've noticed my speech cadence is picking up again.
Yeah.
But when I'm, living and working in Europe, I'd have a tendency to just speak slower, probably be a
Sure.
little more calm,
Yeah.
and tone down the voice levels.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So it's good to become very aware of that.
Yes. And so you were like, um, also like have like a lot of people from everywhere in your team?
Yeah, I was
Uh-huh.
really blessed. So we, of course, we had Swiss and Germans because of the nature of where Switzerland's located. But then also, as I was moving companies, but still remaining in that Zug, Zurich area,
Uh-huh.
I ended up working with a lot of people from Italy or from France and the UK, of course, right? There's a bunch
Yeah.
of Brits that are down there. And again, it just made me more aware of what I was saying, how I was saying it, taking extra time. And I was
Yeah.
learning so much. I remember being told by one of my Swiss colleagues, listen, Nance, you got to tone this American positivity thing down. It's really
Yeah.
off putting. And, and I came up through American business and American business school, right? You're just unaware until you're aware.
Right. Yeah.
And then as I was, pondering that and looking around on the train and on the tram in Switzerland, and everybody's more closed. They're not chatting. They're not chatting to you in line like you would get in America.
Yeah.
um, you start to modulate your personality to fit in. And I think
Right.
that's a good thing, because I really enjoyed being there. My teams were great, the companies were great. And so I wanted to do my best. And I learned about kind of shape shifting a little.
Uh-huh.
So,
But
yeah.
I wonder, like, since you studied international
Mm,
business, were
mhm.
you also aware of like the cultural differences, or like were you expecting some of it?
I think you're aware on a very peripheral level, but you're not aware at a visceral level. Meaning, it's one thing when you're in a meeting. Like I remember being at a dinner meeting with I was part of a team regionally in Switzerland, but we were going to the country of France and working with a team who happened to be based in Paris, right?
Uh-huh.
And so they were gracious enough to be speaking English with us. And then I just remember looking across the table, and the general manager at the time just raised his eyebrow. And I thought, oh, he is not happy. This is a statement based on what we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
And there's just small nuances that until you're living it and you're in the context or in the moment,
Yeah.
you don't clock.
I
Uh,
see.
right. And you can learn about things in theory, but it's very different to be living it.
Mm-hmm.
I had to sign car leases in German, or housing apartment
Sure.
leases in German. And so you just kind of, you just got to go with it.
And was it already at a time where like whatever Google Translate was already
Not,
around?
yeah, not to the level that it was. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, there was some of that. And then luckily I still have a lovely friend, Esther, who is, of course, fluent in German and in English and other languages.
Uh-huh.
And so she was very kind and helped
Okay.
me probably more than I deserved. So,
Yes.
yeah, that helped.
So, and I just wanted to ask you, your company who made you move to Switzerland, did you also have relocation assistance, like
I
for like a
did.
first apartment,
Yeah, I did.
all this?
And that made it, really easy and a much better experience. One thing I liked that they provided as well was I had 2 or 3 sessions with, I'll call her a cultural attache. That might be a pretty heavy moniker, but she was able to sit down with me over a cup of coffee and talk about, okay, how's it going? What are you learning, or what's standing out to you?
Okay,
Because
yeah.
when you first moved countries, everything's new, but you pick up on is it like peculiarities, right, of like people or way things are done in a culture. And so she was someone who was not connected to the company. She wasn't a personal friend, but I could talk to her because she and her husband had moved countries multiple times, and just say, okay, why do they do it like that? Or what does
Uh-huh.
this mean? Or, how am I supposed to make sense of that? And so she was a safe pair of hands for me to have some of those kind of tricky conversations with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
And
and that was a big blessing, honestly, to have.
sure.
So.
And so you were what the town was called Zug?
Yeah, Zug. So I lived in Zurich, and again, this gets down to all the fun of like American taxes and what you have to do in different jurisdictions. So I lived in Zug, and I commuted. I think it was about 30 minutes out to this little village called, or I lived in Zurich and commuted out to Zug.
Okay, so you lived in
Yeah,
Zurich. Okay,
yeah,
because I was like just wanted to know like how is it in the small town and were you expecting Alps and
right.
mountains and then what was the reality?
Well, the reality, I mean, Switzerland is a beautiful country. So, from an aesthetics point of view, the reality matched. Well,
Uh-huh.
honestly, the reality was often better than what I
Oh,
thought,
awesome. Yeah.
which is cool. But then I think where the rubber meets the road is sort of figuring out your like kind of daily or weekly cadence.
Mhm.
So for example, when I first moved there, a lot of the grocery stores, of course, aren't open on the weekends, especially,
Yeah.
right? They're open Saturday, but not Sunday. And so then we had to go to like the Migros or the Coop in the train station if you needed milk or bread or whatever you ran out of. And so some of that as an American was interesting because, I was adjusting how I did life, or making time to go to the post office before it closed, or making
Mhm.
time to um, like hit the dry cleaners because the dry cleaners weren't open convenient hours.
Yeah,
And
sure.
some of that is just, an interesting, especially coming from America where things are very convenient. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, that was different.
And also the how is it making friends? Because I imagine, similar to the Germans, the Swiss would keep private life and work life separated. So,
Yeah, I think making friends, yeah, that is really a good point to bring up. I think in some ways, well, there were two things. I'll say this working in my favor. One, I happened to be dating a Swiss, Croatian, Italian guy at the time.
oh, perfect. So
So
you had
that,
company.
so I had company that worked in my favor.
Uh-huh.
He was very patient with me because I'm sure I wasn't easy at that point in my life adjusting to a different culture, right?
Mhm.
Because I didn't do it in my 20s. I did it when I think I was like 39, 40 years old, somewhere in there. So I had already so much ingrained behavior
Mhm.
and ways of thinking. And so that was super helpful to have him. He helped a lot. And then at work, because it was a international company, right? And this was like a regional hub. There were a lot of people there that weren't Swiss who were working. And so they were going through kind of similar adjustment
Mhm.
periods like I was. But I do have to say, what I love about the Swiss is it does take a while to get to know them, but once you do, and once they like you and they commit to a friendship, they really do feel more like lifelong friends.
Mhm.
Um, and I juxtapose that with, I think, how Americans can sometimes be, where they appear very open and chatty and, yeah, let's go do this or let's set up a dinner, but then they don't follow through
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah.
and
Mhm.
so for me anyway, with Americans, it seems like there's these layers that you kind of work through.
Mhm.
But with the Swiss, it was more like peeling things back until they got to the point of liking and trusting, and
You
then.
know, they always compare Germans to a coconut. So I
Oh, okay.
imagine that's similar for the Swiss.
Yeah.
You know, so like first you have to dig through that really hard shell and
Right.
then you get the soft.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I really love my Swiss friends.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot, and I think they're very tolerant because the country is a small country. So it's used to having lots of different expats come through.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that that's challenging for them politically, challenging for them somewhat on an economic front as well. But I just thought that country handled it great. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
And where your time was limited in Switzerland?
No, I
Because
think I was there about 6 years. So I
okay.
ended up moving different companies, but because of the nature of pharma and biotech, there's a lot of it in Zurich and then there's quite a bit in Basel, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so living in Zurich area, literally you could, at that time, I could kind of walk down the street and you'd hit other pharma companies. So it was good for career growth
Ah,
to still
okay.
stay in Switzerland, which was nice.
Okay, but was it easy to find a new job? Did you also had to like do something about the visa then? Was it like, hey, give me the job, but you also need to provide me a visa?
Right. Well, I think my first company provided more of an open work permit where it wasn't tied directly to the
Ah,
company.
okay.
And that made that simpler. So I don't remember if it was like a transfer or something, but
Okay,
yeah,
but okay, so you were not super tied to that company. Like if you lose the job, you have to go.
go, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And
exactly.
then why did you then move to Denmark?
Oh, so I ended up being in Switzerland, like I said, about 6 years. And my mom was having health challenges. So she
Mm.
had a lot of them when I was growing up. She had cancer, heart disease.
Ah, okay.
So I think the whole reason I had gotten into the pharma biotech space was felt like I grew up at the Mayo Clinic in
I
Rochester
see. I see.
because of my mom. And so
Mm-hmm.
at that time, after Switzerland, COVID was hitting. It had already started. And then I just had this gut feeling that I really needed to move back to the US. And I knew it had something to do with my mom. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't tell you anything more than that, just that I had a very strong gut feeling I had to be back by a certain.
Uh-huh.
So my company at the time was starting to close down their operations in Europe. It was the precursor to that. So they said, hey, you can have a job in Boston or take a package. And so I took the package, like
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm forgetting what the name of the package is, but so they give you the payout, right? And then you're done working with them. Uh,
Yeah.
and I was able to spend a lot of time with my mom, which was great. And she had gotten COVID, but then like her heart disease issues came up and then the cancer came back.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it is a blessing to be able to be back when you're with parents who are having challenging health
Mm-hmm.
situations, but I wouldn't tell you it was easy.
No.
Um, and you're going through the reversed culture shock. You're moving all
On
your
top of that,
stuff
yeah.
on top of that. And then obviously at some point, you can do so much caregiving, but I still had a career that I wanted to nurture,
Mm-hmm.
and to make sure that I was doing that. So that's then when this opportunity with Denmark came up.
But
So,
your mom was still alive when your
so
opportunity came?
So she was alive for uh, 2 weeks after I had signed and moved for the opportunity. So I was in Copenhagen
Oh
for two
no.
weeks and then she passed away.
Oh,
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
but that was like a very rough start then for
A
you.
super rough start. It was really difficult. And the company I was working for at the time, was very gracious. They allowed me to stay in the US, I think, because I had to immediately fly back and I was there for about a month.
Mhm.
And again, I don't know if you've gone through the death of a parent or anything yet, but there's a lot of paperwork associated with
Yeah.
death. You know, you've got to talk to the lawyers, talk to the bank, you've got all the insurance companies. obviously you're like sketching out the funeral, you're picking songs. Like I wrote
Right.
her obituary, all that kind of stuff. It's just draining, and takes a lot of energy, and
Yeah.
it's beyond being sad and depressing and stuff. It just takes a lot of energy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you don't have any siblings?
I have one sibling. He's 5 years younger than I am. And he had Asperger's, rheumatoid
I
arthritis,
see.
diabetes. So he had a lot of his own health challenges.
Right.
And
Okay.
so, interestingly enough, he passed away in January of this year. And
Oh,
I know it was completely
wow.
unexpected. My dad and I didn't expect that. And so I was able to see him over Christmas. And then, come January, I think we were about 3 weeks into the month. My dad happened to call me. And I remember I was sitting on my sofa in the middle of an apartment in Copenhagen. And my dad's like, well, I'm headed down to see the coroner. And I thought, well, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, your brother passed away suddenly, like today.
That's so crazy.
It was, my mind was blown because I had always knew that I was going to take care of my brother when my
Mm-hmm.
parents passed away, right? Like he could live independently, but he did need a lot of other kinds of support,
Yeah.
just because of all the challenges he's had. And, he was a great brother, super loving, caring, like gave really great hugs.
Mm-hmm.
And so this kind of really turned my life upside down because a lot of the work that I was doing and the energy I was putting in my career and everything was because I knew I needed to make enough money for my brother and for me to
Oh,
live,
I see.
right? I didn't know how much money my parents had put aside for him.
Sure.
We hadn't talked about that. And so that was kind of running in the back of my mind as I was building my career, is that, I have more than myself to worry about here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make it good. And then additionally, I always thought, well, probably at some point I'd be back in Montana because that's where I grew up. And so lo and behold, I ended up coming back, but not for the reasons I thought.
Okay.
Does
So
that make sense?
you just very abruptly canceled your plans on staying in
In Den
Copenhagen?
Yeah, so there were some precursors where I was going through, okay, I feel like it might be time, there's something here. But then when my brother passed away in January, and my dad's like 78, right? So he needs a little support. Like he doesn't use the computer.
Yeah. Oh,
He
yeah.
doesn't like do
Yeah.
online
You don't
banking.
want to let your
Exactly.
parent, your only family member, then being by himself.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
he'd gone obviously through the death of his wife, my mom, through the
Mm-hmm.
death of his son. And when I came back, because I only came back like 4 or 5 months ago now, I haven't been back in the US for too long, um, that he'd lost a bunch of weight when I came
Mm-hmm.
back. And he just, I think, was, depressed a bit.
Yeah.
And so I spent
Mm-hmm.
time this summer with him trying to help him put on weight. He had to have a cataract removed from his eye. I got his house painted
Uh-huh.
because, as my mom was kind of stepping through cancer coming back
Sure.
and
There's no
heart
time for
failure,
that.
there's no
No.
time. And when you're older too, you just don't have the energy for some of this
Yeah.
stuff, I think.
Yeah.
So you just kind of go, oh, I'll deal with it tomorrow. So I spent my summer just trying to get him and the house and everything back on track. Um, and it's been nice being back in Montana. I got to say I've been welcomed back with open arms. Like
Okay.
everybody's been super generous with time and connecting me to people. There's an incubator in Billings, Montana called Rock 31. They've been amazing. And because that's a hard shift, Copenhagen to like Billings, Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been to Bozeman, but I imagine it'll being a lot
It's
smaller.
a lot smaller, totally different culturally,
Yes, and
looks
less
totally different,
royalty.
less royalty. That's right. No, like less pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so again, I've been so blessed because I've had friends and family members, of course, that I grew up with, right? Because I grew up in Montana. And so plugging back into some of those relationships. And that's nice because they've known me since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And, they're like, okay, good. Are you done with this, European adventure of yours? Great.
Okay.
Let's move
Okay.
on. I don't know that I'm done, right? Because I'm
Right.
still right now, I've got a startup company called Collabio Healthcare, and we are doing a lot of work, both in Europe,
Uh-huh.
Brazil, America, hopefully into the Middle East and China as well.
Okay.
So I don't think I'll ever give it up.
So you would
But
definitely, well, there is definitely business travel involved, but you don't
there's,
know if
yeah,
it's gonna be longer or shorter, just like a few weeks.
exactly. And
Yeah.
you can appreciate I've probably spent more money on storage units in my adult life than anybody ever should
Oh,
have.
so you never
So,
gave up like all your belongings when you moved abroad?
no, because number one, I spent so much time curating things, and I love my sofa or
Uh-huh.
whatever it is. There's coffee mugs I have drug all over the world because I love them.
Uh-huh.
Like some I got in Paris a long time ago and they have special meaning to me. So
Yeah.
luckily they have not broken, which is great, but they've been
Hmm.
moved across a few times.
So
So
you always keep that in the storage unit.
yeah,
And so I wanted to touch base a little bit on the reculture no, reverse culture shock.
yeah,
So you mentioned it, you had it a couple of times. Like what always like was the hardest hit?
yeah. I remember, I think coming back from Switzerland was probably the hardest because I was only in Denmark for about a year, year and a half. It was really short.
Can I ask you how much time in between that
Yeah.
was between Switzerland and Denmark?
And yeah, I think I had probably 2.5 or 3 years back in the US,
Okay.
right? And then I had gone over again. And so, because I had lived for such a long time in Switzerland, now, of course, I came back for like holiday breaks or that
Yeah.
sort of thing, but for the most part, was just living and working there. The first time I went into Costco, so you know
Yeah.
Costco because I know there's some in France.
Yeah.
So, well, the first time I went into an American Costco, I about had to sit down because it's so overwhelming.
Oh yeah. I
I mean,
never go to Costco. It's like, ugh.
I know, right? No, it's a great store. They have a
No,
lot of
it's
stuff.
great. It's
Yeah.
if you need
But
to buy
like,
in bulk, perfect.
yeah, I know. Like, I don't know how much toilet paper you need, but yeah. So I remember the first time I had gone to Costco coming back, I was so overwhelmed. Like, it's very stimulating, right? The music and the lights and the big, big box stores. Like, it's overwhelming because I was used to shopping at like Coop or Migros or the small, we go to multiple stores to get
Yeah.
what you need in Europe. You just don't go to one all the time.
Yes, you don't have like a Target or you don't have a
Yeah.
Walmart.
No, and
Yes.
sometimes I wish in Europe that we did, but then other times I'm glad that we didn't. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I remember that because that was such an overwhelming sense of, okay, I needed to take a break here. What the heck?
Yeah.
So that was one. Also, coming back and standing in line, like at airports, Americans will just randomly start talking to you if you're a stranger. That does not happen in Europe. The
Mm-hmm.
airports are quieter. There's not always music playing. Like people are minding their own business. They're not talking to you on the train, the tram, in line.
Yeah.
And Americans are chatty, very chatty. And
Uh,
so I was like, internally, how you feel taken aback. Like when somebody
uh-huh.
starts talking to you, I was like, why is this person talking to me? Like, I'm in North Carolina or wherever I was. I don't know anybody. What and I just
Yeah.
had that like sense. Uh, and then I thought, oh, that's right. Okay, I'm back in the US. Like you kind of have to switch gears in your
Mm.
head.
Yeah, back to small talk.
Yeah, back to small talk.
Uh-huh.
Even carrying flowers. So in Europe how we carry flowers upside down, you hold them by the stem usually, and like the bouquet is at the bottom when you're walking. Have you ever
Uh-huh.
noticed Americans hold flowers right side up? So the blooms
Oh,
are at the top and they
I
hold.
never noticed
Yeah, there's
that
weird,
difference.
okay,
No.
there's weird little things like that are just these tip offs. And I had to remember what country I was in and kind of to get with the program. So, yeah.
Okay, so and then You also mentioned that while you were abroad, like you had like faith that kept you going. Um, can you
Yeah.
can you talk about that a
Uh,
little bit?
sure. So I think now I don't know what your experience has been, right? Or your listeners, but
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes when you're an expat, it gets really lonely and you are spending a lot of time, at least initially, because you don't have your daily rhythm down. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have a group of friends to hang out with on the weekends yet. You're sort of a tourist in your own city, or you're just
Mm-hmm.
checking things out. And honestly, you're trying to figure out all the online portals of the government or whatever, right? It's
Yeah.
just overwhelming. And so, um, I remember when I moved to Denmark, because that one sticks out in my head. It was in August, and it was the beginning, like it's cold, and the rain started coming, and winter, and it was just depressing, and my mom had just passed away and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And I thought, wow, I don't know how people who don't have faith sort of um, get along sometimes, because I really had to rely on something other than me to make it through, because it was dark, it was depressing, the weather was crappy, I didn't have a lot of friends, you know, my family life had just been altered. And, I've lived and worked abroad by myself, except
Mm-hmm.
for, the boyfriend that I mentioned at the time.
Yeah.
So I haven't been married. I haven't had these kids or any kids with me going into
Right.
schools, out of schools. So I think it's also maybe a different experience that way. But like I was really glad that I had a strong faith in Jesus in Christ, because I was able to plug into a church. And in Paris and in Copenhagen, there's often these English speaking kind of either non denominational type churches that are really great about welcoming expats in.
Ah, uh-huh. Okay.
And you can, at least find a group of like minded people that you can sit down, have a cup of coffee with, and like talk about life or share what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like the American Church in Paris, right? That's a great example.
Ah,
Awesome
okay, there is
church.
one.
Yeah, there is one, and
Uh-huh.
it has a really rich history. Every time I've been there, the church is so welcoming and loving, and I found a church like that in Copenhagen as well, because it attracts people like you and I. Those
Oh,
who've moved countries
but
multiple
it's not
times.
like necessarily only for one religion. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
you could just go like, let's say it's only for Catholics or it's only for Protestants,
Protestants.
or is.
Yeah, this one was more non-denominational but Christian based, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, you can include all the different denominations within that of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been to a mosque or anything in Copenhagen, right? But
Mm-hmm.
this church was so welcoming and so open that felt like a piece of home in a way,
Okay.
and that was good. And so I'm I like being a person of faith. I've needed it more often than not, just to, get through all these changes in life. And I think as, my mom's passed away, my brother's passed away, you're always trying to make sense of your life and what's happening, what's going on, why is this happening? How am I reacting to it? So, yeah, my faith has been helpful in that regard for sure.
Mm-hmm. And so how was it then in Copenhagen when you then started going to that church more often, regularly? Um,
Yeah, I started going a bit more regularly, and I found a lovely Indian lady who had married a Danish guy, and she had lived in Denmark for many, many years, and she became like a fast friend of mine.
mm-hmm.
And she invited me over to her house, so she and her husband cooked, and it was just really lovely. And I mean, I wouldn't tell you I went to church every Sunday, because I
Yeah.
definitely didn't. But it became a touchstone. To have community people,
Yeah.
going through
Yeah.
the same thing I was going
I
through.
just wanted to say it's like good for community finding.
Totally. And there were
Yeah.
kids that were going to the local universities that were there. You can have really interesting discussions about faith, about life, about politics, everything. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was great for community.
So how much longer did you stay in Denmark after your brother passed away?
Oh gosh, I think I had left in like late April, early May of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the plan originally?
Um, well, I had gone through a shift with my job, so I was either thinking about staying and then looking for work with another company, or I thought, I wonder if I should just move back to the US. Maybe my kind of expat life is over. That's really what I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and in some ways, I think that was not a bad realization to come to, that it was just like, well, I've got my dad to take care of, and he's doing well, but like with aging parents, sometimes you need to be there physically
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like physically do things for them,
Yeah,
right?
no, because so you're not like 100% sure if they follow through with the
Ex-
things. There sometimes I hate to say it, but they're like little children, right?
Totally. And then what's worse is they can drive and they still
Yeah.
vote and they do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so like it's like having a child, but they're a full-fledged adult and they need to
Yeah.
just make their own choices because they're an adult. And so, yeah, it's been interesting. This whole aging parent thing has been interesting. And so I came back, and I think I made the right choice. Like it's good to be closer to my dad. I'm about
Mm-hmm.
2 hours away from him drive
Okay.
time, so that's pretty close. And then I lived with him right away coming back, and I'll go back and forth between like an apartment and then his house and being with
Mm-hmm.
him too. So we'll see how this all works out.
Okay, so but now in Bozeman, do you have to go through the whole steps again, like finding community, finding friends, getting used to
Yeah,
everything?
yes, a little bit, but again, I can't stress how these entrepreneurial incubators have been in America for me. They've been great. So here's what I love about the state of Montana. I will plug them anytime because they have been so wonderful about getting me connected to a lot of people within the state, right? And it's a very big state. It's like the fourth largest
Yeah, and you only have what,
state.
three people who live
Yeah, and
there.
about 1.1 million, which
Yeah.
feels like three.
Yeah.
You're right. And so once the community, the entrepreneurial community, especially in biotech, like knew I was here, knew I was committed to being back with my dad, that I came back to Montana for a reason, that I wasn't going to leave again.
Mm-hmm.
I got connected in very quickly, and they have been wonderful. Like they brought me to a networking dinner. I think it was probably the most fun networking dinner I've had yet in my life.
Oh, fun.
The conversation was flowing, people were fun. And so the opportunities really now have started bubbling up. And Bozeman, I think, is going to be like, Boston, like Kendall Square. So I don't know if you know biotech very well or not, but like in the Boston, Cambridge area, Kendall Square was a place where a lot of new science was happening. People
Mm-hmm.
were, being drawn to that. And that's where a lot of companies got their start. I think that's what's happening here in
Oh,
Bozeman.
really?
Yeah, my senses at least, that's what's
Uh-huh.
occurring.
Can I ask why? Is it because the surrounding area is so pretty or like
Well, I think that's an added benefit, but I think
uh-huh.
what's like driving it is there's a state bill 535 that is a right to try bill, which, excuse me, is allowing patients, certain patients, right, to come in before clinical trials have completely finalized to try a drug.
I see. Yes, very
Yeah,
very
very kind of,
attractive to
yeah,
your
to
field.
businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a draw. I also think because of like Montana State University, there's Montana State University Billings, the University of Montana in Missoula. They've got great incubators and great just researchers that are there too. And so we're thinking a lot about biofilm right now and working on some products with that. So there's an ecosystem that's feeding itself from the universities to, then like professionals like me who
Mm-hmm.
come in to what's happening with the state, and the state being more open, to different ways of being. So I think it's just the right mix of everything right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And and you said like you're not quite, or you like in the future you would probably also, you would be open to like move abroad again.
Well, I think I would, but you know what? I probably am never going to move my stuff again. I'm so
I
tired
see. Yeah.
of moving my stuff. So what I said to my friends, Victoria, when I came back, I was like, listen, I just want to buy a house, put my stuff in the house. And when I die, it's got to be somebody else's problem to clean that house. I do
Okay.
not want to move any more stuff. You know,
Okay.
like how many coffee pots or vacuums do you need with different plugins? You know what I mean?
Oh, right,
Yeah,
right.
and I'm sure like you, I've blown up a coffee pot or two when you've tried to
Sure.
use it in a different outlet. And so yeah, so I think I'll always be based in Montana. You know, this is my home, right? These
Yeah.
people gave me my start here, and I love where I grew up, and I love my community. But I do also feel like I'm, a citizen, I guess, of the world, which
Yeah.
sounds trite, but I do feel like that. I think
Mm-hmm.
I can fit in anywhere. Um, and that's been really I guess, the fun of what happened in my career, but also kudos to my parents because I feel like they also instilled that in me in an early age to get out and explore.
Yeah. Um, Also, I was wondering because you said like everybody was so nice to you when you moved back, but were you also nervous at some point?
Oh yeah, I totally was because I had no idea how this would play out, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't big biotech or pharma companies here in Montana. There's not a lot of them. It's more startups. There's research, obviously, clinical trial research that's
Yeah.
going on. And then there's, level one trauma centers like
Mm-hmm.
Intermountain Health, so
Yeah.
there's hospitals, but I don't play in that. I'm
No.
in this other space. So yeah, I had no idea. I thought, well, this is either going to be a really great idea or a really stupid idea.
So you were but more
So,
worried about your career, or
no, I was more worried about my family. Like, at the end of the day, if I need to get a job at Starbucks or if I need to just do whatever, I'll
I
do
see.
it. But
Okay.
there's no way that I felt like I could leave my dad by himself,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't, at this point, in my life, I'm just comfortable being me. Like I don't have to prove myself. Like in your 20s, you're really trying to prove yourself. Like you can do this in your career. You can figure this out. Aren't you so cool doing this? I just don't care anymore.
Yeah, that's
you know,
good. That's good.
it's not that I don't care,
I
but like
know.
I'm not driven that way anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You already had that in previously.
Well, yeah, and at a certain point, I think for me, I realized the joy of life are my friends, my family, the people that
Mm-hmm.
I love, doing the right thing for my community, doing the right thing for the state. Like I very much want Montana to succeed. I love Montanans. I like how independent they are, like thinking wise. They they are they're what do I want to say? It's like that pioneer spirit you
Ah, okay.
know, is alive and well in the state. And I really like that. I like that mentality. They're pretty self sufficient, right? People
Yeah.
know how to hunt and fish and do all the
Right.
things.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So it's different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're coming almost to an end, but I have like one last question for you.
Sure.
But this is also probably very hard to answer. So what would you say is better, Denmark or Switzerland?
Oh, if I had to pick, honestly, I'd pick Switzerland.
Yeah.
I would. And here's why. First of all, the coffee is amazing in Switzerland. I don't know if it's the Italian influence, I don't know what, but like the coffee's amazing. Also, because it's centrally located, you can quickly fly to all the
Mm-hmm.
places, right?
Yeah.
Denmark is up, further north.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to kind of commit more when you're flying out of Denmark. So I really like that about Switzerland. I also love the mountains. Denmark's very
Yes.
flat. So I'm living back in the mountains now. In
Mm-hmm.
Switzerland, there's mountains everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Switzerland was the first country I ever moved to. So I think it has a bit of my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah. And I had a good experience living there.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thanks for that. I was also like, I don't know, but I think in Switzerland you make a better money. The pay is
Yeah,
better.
the pay is better. That's true, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not part of the European Union. So you're absolutely right. There's all of
And
that.
you have more daylight in winter.
And you have more daylight and less wind. I had no idea there was so much wind in Denmark.
Oh, because there are no mountains.
Yeah, there's no mountains. You're on the, you're close to the
Yeah.
water, right? Almost everywhere. And like logically, you know these things, but not until you're like trying to get to the tram to commute for
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
All right. Thank you so much for the conversation. That was
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
I had fun too. Thanks again for inviting me. It's really
Yeah, of
fun.
course.
Okay. We'll talk to you soon,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys, that was my conversation with Nancy. Thank you so much for staying the whole episode and listening to her full story. And if you really like this podcast, then tell everyone about it. Your mom, your dad, your sister, your friends. And if you don't, then just keep it to yourself. Actually, I heard this in another podcast, so I really like that saying. So I kind of copied it, or no, I got inspired by it. Anyway, there are also like 3 other ways how you can support the podcast. Like 1, leave the 5-star rating wherever you listen to this podcast. The second one is, subscribe. Really important. Push the subscribe button in the corner of your app so you will never miss an episode and you can hear it right away when it comes out. And then there is also another way. You can buy me a coffee. So it's a link in the show notes. It's called buymeacoffee.com/worldscollidepod, and you can just chip in whatever you feel like. You can just buy me a cup of coffee there, and I'm happy to bring you more inspired episodes every week into your ears. All right, so much for that. And then yes, and of course, guests. I'm always happy to have new guests. So if you are interested in sharing your story, then why don't you reach out to me? It's worldscollide123pod@gmail.com. And and just contact me and tell me what you want to talk about. And or also, of course, like contact me if you have anything to say. I'm happy to hear from you. All right, that was enough now. I see you next week. Until then, bye.